I swear, the universe has a sick sense of humor. The night I found out my wife was cheating on me, I wasn't out snooping, I wasn't even suspicious, I was folding laundry. Folding laundry. That's the moment she chose to smirk, toss a blouse into the dryer, and say, "You're lucky I even let you touch me." Like I was some beggar at her royal court. Like the last 20 years of bills paid, busted pipes fixed, late-night pharmacy runs, and pretending not to notice her new Pilates clothes were just minor footnotes in her grand, tragic love story. I didn't flinch. Not once. I folded one last t-shirt, an old State Fair souvenir from the early days, before she got veneers and an ego to match, and I placed it carefully on the stack. She thought silence meant defeat. She never understood that silence is when a man starts keeping score. Her phone buzzed in the hall. A giggle. That fake, girlish giggle she'd been practicing lately. The kind that didn't belong to a 40-something real estate agent with wine teeth. No, this was the giggle of a liar. And liars always enjoy the setup. I glanced in the mirror on my way downstairs. Wrinkled, sure. Slower than I used to be, maybe. But weak? Not a chance. I build machines that carve titanium with more precision than a surgeon's scalpel. I run a crew of 20 men who don't dare miss a measurement. I wasn't going to get outmaneuvered by a woman who thinks syncing iCloud is a foreign language. So I opened the desk drawer in my office and pulled out a small oak box I'd carved myself. It was supposed to hold cufflinks. Instead, it held patience. And tonight, it was about to hold evidence. You see, months earlier, I had quietly synced her phone to the family iPad. She never noticed, thought it was just for Netflix. Rookie mistake. Every lie she texted landed neatly in my lap. "Can't wait to see you outside the sheets for once. LOL," she wrote once. He replied with a shirtless bathroom selfie from a hotel I recognized, the Burstone. Lavender air fresheners and desperation in the wallpaper. So I started stacking the receipts. Emails, synced texts, car rental forms with a second driver. Like a surgeon, I laid them all out in order. Chronology is important when you're about to dismantle someone's safety net. That night, she floated down in her robe, pretending to be affectionate. "You didn't say goodnight," she murmured. "I figured you were tired of touching me," I said with a smile. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Then she muttered, "You're being dramatic." No, I thought. Dramatic is what comes later. Right now, I'm just collecting data. And with that, I slipped the first stack of printouts into the oak box, polished the brass hinges, and closed it gently. Not with anger, not with sorrow, with precision. Because placeholders don't argue. Placeholders execute. The thing about people like my wife is, they confuse boldness with brilliance. They think if they lie loudly enough, often enough, you'll start to believe them. What they don't realize is that a quiet man is rarely a blind man. It started small. She forgot her phone on the counter one night while she was upstairs. Face down, screen still lit. A rookie move. I tapped it once. Open. No passcode, because of course she thought I was too dull to ever check. First thing I saw, a calendar invite. Dinner, 7 p.m., the Burstone. No client name attached, no notes. Just the date and time. That was her idea of covering her tracks. When she came back downstairs, I was sitting at the table, sipping coffee. "How was your shower?" I asked. She smirked, towel around her shoulders. "Refreshing. You should try it sometime." The jab didn't land. I smiled, set my cup down, and said, "By the way, when you're at your client dinner tomorrow, don't forget the Burstone validates parking if you get your ticket stamped." Her hand froze mid-motion, just for a beat. Then she laughed, too loud, too fast. "You looked at my phone?" I shrugged. It buzzed. I thought maybe it was important. That laugh of hers turned sharp. "God, you're paranoid. It's business. Not everything's some grand conspiracy." I nodded slowly. "Of course. Just make sure to get the parking validated. No sense paying out of pocket when you don't have to." She stormed off muttering about control issues, heels clicking like a metronome of denial. But here's the thing, I never stop at suspicion. I verify. The next night, I was parked 2 blocks down from the Burstone. Call it surveillance, call it curiosity, whatever makes you feel better. I watched her walk in, hand tucked under the contractor's arm like they were auditioning for a wedding catalog. Same guy I once offered a beer to on my deck. The kind who laughed too hard at his own jokes. I didn't approach. I didn't make a scene. I just snapped 3 photos from the driver's seat and set my phone down. Later, when she stumbled in close to midnight, smelling of wine and lavender. She whispered, "Sorry I'm late. The client dinner ran long." I kissed her on the forehead, smiled, and said, "Don't worry. I know." She froze again, eyes flicking toward mine like a deer on the road. Then she giggled nervously and disappeared into the bathroom. She thought she'd throw me off balance. But what she didn't know was this. Every lie she told, every smirk she wore, every little dig she made, all of it was going into the oak box. Brick by brick, she was building her own gallows. And I was letting her measure the rope herself. By week 3, she was practically daring me to notice. New perfume, new lingerie receipts, accidentally, left in shopping bags, extra hours at the office. It was theater, really. Bad theater. She wanted me to confront her so she could spin it, flip it, make me the jealous husband. But I didn't bite. One night, she strutted into the kitchen, phone glued to her hand, smirking at whatever Romeo had texted her. She poured herself a glass of wine, leaned against the counter, and said, "You never ask where I'm going anymore. You don't care." I looked up from the newspaper, folded it neatly, and smiled. Care? Of course I care. But if you're busy, you're busy. I've got my own projects. That rattled her. She was expecting suspicion, not serenity. Expecting interrogation, not indifference. She wanted the fight, and I denied her the satisfaction. She tilted her head, lips pursed. "You're acting strange. Almost like you don't notice things." "Oh, I notice," I said, taking a slow sip of coffee. "I just don't waste energy on things that resolve themselves." She scoffed, but I saw it, the flicker of unease, the seed of doubt. For the first time, she wondered if maybe she wasn't the one in control. What she didn't know was that earlier that afternoon, I'd already called my attorney. Quietly. No threats, no theatrics. Just a clean rundown of assets, accounts, property titles. The man's exact words were, "You've got her cornered before she even realizes she's in the ring." I also had copies of her texts uploaded to a private cloud drive, encrypted and neatly labeled by date. Exhibit A, B, C, all the way to Z if necessary. So while she was busy giggling in the laundry room with her contractor, I was busy moving half our liquid assets into an account she couldn't touch. I even left just enough in the joint one so she wouldn't notice the drain right away. Later that evening, she tried to provoke me again. Walked into the living room, leaned against the doorframe, and asked, "Do you even love me anymore?" I turned, met her eyes, and said flatly, "I love clarity. And clarity always comes, sooner or later." Her smile faltered, just for a second. Then she forced a laugh, called me dramatic, and disappeared upstairs. But I saw it in her face, the first crack in the porcelain. Because deep down, she knew. I wasn't losing sleep over her lies. I was cataloging them. And men like me don't keep ledgers for nothing. She had this habit of underestimating me. Always did. In her head, I was the steady, predictable husband, good for paying bills, fixing leaks, chauffeuring her around when her Range Rover had tire pressure issues. The kind of man who'd nod along, bite his tongue, and keep life moving because conflict just wasn't my thing. She mistook discipline for weakness. That was her first mistake. It was a Friday night when the house finally got quiet enough for me to hear myself think. She'd gone out, of course, dressed too loud, laughing too loud, pretending she was still 25 and not clinging to it like a bad spray tan. I sat in my office with the oak box open on the desk, sorting through what I'd gathered. Emails, texts, photos from the birthstone, receipts for dinners charged to her personal card. Little breadcrumbs she thought no one would bother to follow. Every betrayal has a signature, and hers was carelessness. She wanted to be caught. She wanted the drama, the confrontation, the shouting match she could twist into a story about her poor, insecure husband who just didn't get it. That's the script cheaters run when they're ready to torch a house and blame the smoke on someone else. But I wasn't going to play my part. Instead, I called in a favor from a friend, Bill, an IT guy with a hobby for digging where people don't want you to dig. He'd helped me once years ago when a subcontractor tried to skim funds off a project. Bill had this way of smiling while he uncovered the ugliest truths, like a man peeling wallpaper and finding black mold. "You sure you want me to do this?" he asked over the phone, voice low and steady. "Positive," I said. "Just get me the records. Emails, backups, everything that passes through her phone and laptop. No stone unturned." There was a pause. Then, "All right. but you'd better be ready for what you'll see. I already was. By the time she rolled in past midnight, smelling of cheap champagne and bad decisions, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, calm as stone. She flinched when she saw me awake. "You scared me," she said, pressing a hand to her chest. "Scaring you isn't my job," I replied. "That's yours." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't press. She went upstairs, muttering something about early showings tomorrow. I didn't bother replying. The silence was enough to make her uneasy. The next morning, she made a show of dressing in a tailored blazer, pretending to be professional. She even kissed my cheek on her way out, as if affection could cover the lies spilling out of her phone. I watched her leave, then pulled up the files Bill had sent me overnight. It was worse than I expected. Not just one guy. Two. The contractor, him I knew about, but also some realtor she met at a networking event, a guy named Daniel. Their messages weren't even discreet. She saved him as Diana, like a teenager sneaking calls past her parents. I scrolled through thread after thread. Complaints about me. Jokes at my expense. Plans for weekends that didn't exist on our shared calendar. One line stuck like a nail in my skull. "He's nice, but dull. Just a placeholder." That word again. Placeholder. Funny thing about placeholders. They only look harmless until you realize they've been holding the structure up the whole time. Remove one, and the whole thing collapses. I leaned back, exhaled, and smiled for the first time in weeks. Evidence wasn't just evidence now. It was leverage. That night, I tested the waters. She came home later than usual, dropped her purse on the counter, and started scrolling through her phone like I wasn't even in the room. "Busy day?" I asked. She didn't look up. "Exhausting. Clients don't respect boundaries anymore." I nodded. "True. Boundaries are important. Without them, people start thinking they can get away with anything." She froze for half a second. Just a flicker. Then she laughed. "What are you even talking about?" I didn't answer. I just smiled, picked up my book, and went back to reading. Let her wonder. Over the next week, I started making small moves. Harmless, almost invisible, but deliberate. I canceled one of our joint credit cards. Quietly froze a savings account she thought was still accessible. Redirected all the mail to my office box instead of the house. She didn't notice right away. People like her never do. They're too busy staring at their phones, waiting for validation from someone else's husband. But when she did notice, she'd have no idea it was me. She'd think it was the bank's fault or some clerical error. And while she fumed on the phone with customer service, I'd just keep sipping my coffee, nodding sympathetically, like I wasn't the one pulling the strings. One evening, she finally snapped. "You've been different lately," she said, crossing her arms in the doorway. "Distant. Cold. Like you're hiding something." I set my glass down, met her eyes, and said, "Maybe I'm just learning from the best." She blinked. Her lips parted like she wanted to retort, but nothing came out. She spun on her heel and stormed upstairs instead, muttering under her breath. I smiled, because the cracks were widening. See, revenge isn't about the big, cinematic blow-up. It's not about yelling in restaurants or throwing plates against the wall. Revenge is quiet. Revenge is systematic. Revenge is her waking up at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering if maybe, just maybe, she underestimated the man she thought was a placeholder. I could see it working already. She started asking little questions. "Did you move the mail? Did you call the bank?" Her tone half accusation, half paranoia. And each time, I'd shrug and say, "Must be a mistake." The irony was delicious. The liar finally doubting her own reality. The oak box on my desk was nearly full now. Emails, texts, bank statements, even a copy of the gym membership she bought under her maiden name, trying to look younger for men who didn't care about her name at all. Each item carefully labeled, stacked, preserved. Evidence, yes, but also trophies. Proof that I wasn't blind. Proof that I wasn't weak. Proof that I was patient enough to let her hang herself. And she didn't even realize the rope was already tied around her neck. The beauty of precision is that it doesn't announce itself. It waits. It sharpens. It executes when the timing is perfect. And for her, that timing was getting very, very close to be why the time autumn rolled in, the game had changed. Not in her head. She still thought she was the lead actress in her little soap opera. But for me, the stage was already built, the props placed, the ending written. All she had left was to stumble through the script. And stumble she did. It started with her phone buzzing at the dinner table. Twice. 3 times. Same number, Diana, the alias she'd given her side piece realtor. I didn't even glance at the screen. Just kept eating my steak, chewing slow, steady. She fumbled to silence it, forced a laugh. Clients. They think I'm on call 24/7. I said, cutting another bite. Boundaries, remember? Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. She forced a smile, then dropped the subject. But I saw it, the flicker of doubt in her eyes. She was starting to realize she wasn't sure what I knew, or how much. That's the most dangerous weapon a man can hold, uncertainty. The next day, I let her walk straight into one of my traps. See, I told Bill, the IT guy, to send one of her client threads directly to her work email. An anonymous forward. Just one message. The kind where she called me a boring placeholder and promised the contractor she'd make it up to him next weekend. I didn't confront her. Didn't even hint I'd seen it. I just waited. That night, she came storming into the living room, face pale, eyes darting. Something weird happened today, she said, clutching her phone. Oh, I asked, flipping a page of my book. Someone hacked me. I got an email from my own account. It was a message I wrote to a client. Strange, I said, keeping my tone flat. You should probably be more careful with what you send. Emails can last forever. Her jaw clenched. It's not funny. Someone's trying to mess with me. I set the book down, leaned forward, and met her eyes. Vanessa, people can only mess with you if you give them something to use. Did you? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Stormed off upstairs without another word. I smiled. Because paranoia is a slow poison. And she'd just taken her first real sip. Over the next week, she grew jittery, jumping when the phone rang, checking the mail before I could, snapping at small things, like when I forgot to put the recycling out, or when the Wi-Fi lagged for 2 seconds. She was fraying at the edges. And I was calm as ever. The oak box was full now. I'd started a second one, labeled Phase 2. This wasn't just about documenting anymore. This was about setting the stage for her collapse. One night, she tried to bait me again. She strutted into the kitchen in a silk robe, glass of wine in hand, leaned against the counter, and said, "You know, if you were more exciting, I wouldn't have to work so hard to stay entertained." I looked up from my laptop, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Good thing I'm not in the entertainment business then." She laughed too loud, too fake. "God, you're so cold. Do you even care about us anymore?" I shut the laptop gently, stood, and stepped close enough that she had to tilt her head back. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch her. I just said, low and steady, "Care? Oh, I care. Just not in the way you think. You'll understand soon enough." Her smirk faltered. She muttered something about me being cryptic and scurried upstairs. Here's the thing. By then, I wasn't angry anymore. I was surgical. Betrayal had a way of stripping out the noise. I wasn't interested in shouting matches or broken dishes. I was interested in results. And results take patience. The next phase was financial. I sat down with my lawyer, Marcus, sharp as a scalpel, and laid it all out. He listened, nodding slowly as I handed him the folders, the flash drives, the screenshots. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "Clean. Aggressive. She won't know what hit her." "Good," I said. "That's the point." He adjusted his glasses. "You sure you want to go through with this? We could settle, keep it quiet, split things neatly." I shook my head. She wanted drama. She wanted a stage. Fine. I'll give her a finale. Marcus smiled thinly. "Then let's make it unforgettable." Over the next few weeks, I moved quietly. Shifted assets, adjusted accounts, transferred property titles. Nothing illegal, just precise. She never noticed, too busy playing house with her contractor and her Diana. Meanwhile, I dropped hints. Little ones. A passing remark about how fragile reputations are these days. A comment about how fast things spread when people see the truth. Watching her flinch became a private sport. One night, she snapped. "You're hiding something," she said, eyes blazing. I tilted my head. "Am I?" "Yes. You've been sneaking around, moving money, acting smug. What are you planning?" I smiled. "Funny. I could ask you the same thing." Her face went red. "God, you're impossible. I don't even know why I—" She stopped herself. Too late. The slip hung in the air. "Why you what?" I asked. Calm. Cold. She bit her lip, turned on her heel, and stomped upstairs. That was the night I knew she was close to breaking. The lies weren't fun anymore. The game wasn't thrilling. She was finally starting to understand. She wasn't holding the cards. I was. And when a liar realizes they've lost control, they do something desperate, something reckless, something that seals their fate. I was counting on it. So I waited. Patient, quiet, surgical. Because the cruelest revenge isn't shouting her sins in the street. It's letting her build her own gallows, and then handing her the rope with a smile. And soon enough, she'd be standing there, wondering how she ever thought she was the clever one. It happened on a Tuesday, which somehow made it worse. Tuesdays are supposed to be boring. Coffee, work, traffic, leftovers. Nothing earth-shattering. But betrayal rarely sticks to a schedule. She came home early, which was unusual enough to raise suspicion. Normally, she milked every client dinner for all the time it bought her. This time, though, she breezed through the door at 5:12 sharp, keys jangling like a warning bell. She set her purse down with exaggerated calm, kicked off her heels, and smiled. But not the soft smile she used to give me years ago. This one was wide, toothy, rehearsed. "Hi, honey," she said, like she was auditioning for a detergent commercial. "Evening," I replied, not looking up from my book. She hovered in the doorway for a beat too long. Then she walked into the kitchen, poured herself a glass of wine, and leaned against the counter. "You've been quiet lately." I turned a page. "You think so? I know so." Her voice sharpened. "And I know why." Now I did look up. Slowly. "Why is that?" She sipped her wine like it was her line in a play. "Because you're paranoid. You've been spying on me. Going through my things. You think I don't notice?" I smiled. Not a word, just a smile. The kind that lands heavier than any accusation. She frowned, suddenly less sure of herself. "You can't just invade my privacy. If you've got a problem, say it. Otherwise, stop acting like some detective." I set the book aside, folded my hands, and leaned forward. "Vanessa, if you think privacy exists in a marriage, you've already answered your own question." Her eyes narrowed. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're going to get," I said calmly. She slammed the glass down hard enough that a crack spread through the stem. "You don't scare me, you know? If you think you can control me with your little mind games, you're wrong. I'm not some weak woman you can manipulate." I didn't flinch. "You've never been weak. Just careless." Her mouth opened, then shut. For the first time in months, she didn't have a comeback. She turned on her heel and stormed upstairs. That was her mistake. Because upstairs is where I'd left the envelope. See, I'd staged it. One manila envelope, propped neatly on her vanity. Inside, copies of 3 incriminating texts, 1 hotel receipt, and a single photo of her and the contractor. Arms linked, faces far too close to be explained away. Not the whole box. Not the full case. Just enough to rattle her. 10 minutes later, the stomp of her heels echoed down the stairs. She held the envelope like it was radioactive. "What the hell is this?" she demanded. I didn't even look up. "Paper. Don't play games with me, Mark. You've been following me? Spying? Printing my private messages?" "Private?" I finally looked at her. Strange word for something you text from the laundry room with the door half open. Her jaw clenched. She waved the papers in my face. "This isn't proof. This is, you're twisting things." "Am I?" She faltered. You don't get it. This doesn't mean anything. It's harmless. Just fun. Lavender and hotel bills don't smell like fun," I said. Her face went pale. She dropped the envelope onto the counter, hands shaking just enough for me to notice. "You're pathetic. Digging through my life, trying to catch me like some jealous cop. If you had a spine, you'd just admit you can't keep me happy." There it was, the script. She thought she could flip it. Make me the villain, the boring husband who drove her to find excitement elsewhere. I stood slowly, placed the book down, and stepped closer until there was barely a foot between us. My voice was low, calm, steady. "Vanessa, let's be clear. You don't cheat because you're unhappy. You cheat because you're greedy. Because no matter what you have, it's never enough. And the funniest part? You actually think you're clever about it." Her eyes darted, searching for ground that wasn't there. You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do. And you'll know it too. Soon." She froze, staring at me like she'd never seen me before. For once, she didn't laugh, didn't scoff. She just turned, grabbed her purse, and left the house without another word. I let her go. Because here's the thing. She thought she'd caught a glimpse of the whole picture. She thought the envelope was the smoking gun, the full extent of what I had. And that's exactly what I wanted her to think. Let her scramble. Let her delete messages, call her contractor, panic about who else might know. Every move she made now would only dig her hole deeper. That night, I sat at the desk with the oak box open. The first one was full, the second nearly there. I slid the day's new treasures inside and closed the lid. Brass hinges polished, wood smooth under my hands. Not a coffin. Not yet. A countdown. The following days were delicious. She grew more erratic, canceling client meetings last minute, making excuses that contradicted her own lies. Once, she claimed she was stuck in traffic on the freeway. I looked out the window and saw her car parked in the driveway. She caught me watching, and for the first time, she didn't smirk. She slammed the blinds shut instead. She was unraveling. And when a liar unravels, they get sloppy. I knew it was only a matter of time before she tried her boldest play yet, the desperate move meant to take back control. She'd threaten divorce, maybe even brag about it. She'd think she was cornering me. What she didn't know was that the divorce papers were already drafted, the financial accounts already secured, the assets already untouchable. She was playing checkers. I was playing chess. And she had no idea the board was almost cleared. She tried her big move on a Sunday. We were in the living room, TV humming with some reality show she pretended to like. She muted it, swiveled toward me, and dropped the line like she'd been rehearsing it in the mirror. I want a divorce. No hesitation. No build-up. Just cold and flat, like she was announcing the weather. I didn't blink. I just reached into the drawer, pulled out a thick manila envelope, and slid it across the table. She frowned, flipped it open, and froze. Inside were the already prepared divorce papers, clean, complete, notarized. Her name printed neatly beside mine. "I've been waiting for you to say that," I said. Calm. Her mouth opened, then closed. The moment she thought she'd been holding all the cards, she realized the deck was stacked against her. You can't just," she stammered. "I can. I did. And you'll notice I've already secured the house, the accounts, the vehicles. What you're left with is in Section 4. Paragraph 3. Enjoy the math." She rifled through the pages, hands shaking. I watched the color drain from her face. She wasn't looking at a divorce negotiation. She was looking at an execution plan. And it was already signed. The following weeks were a study in chaos. She scrambled. Lawyers, phone calls, desperate lunches with friends who suddenly didn't want to be seen with her. Her contractor stopped answering. Diana blocked her. And every door she tried was locked before she reached it. Once, she cornered me in the kitchen. Her hair was a mess, eyes bloodshot, mascara smeared from whatever bathroom she'd cried in last. "You ruined me," she hissed. "No," I said, buttering my toast. "You ruined yourself. I just made copies." She slapped the counter so hard the glass rattled. "I'll take you for everything. I'll make sure everyone knows you're a bitter, controlling." I raised a finger. Just one. Careful. Because for every accusation you throw, I've got proof stacked higher than your lies. And when people see it laid out in order, they won't call me bitter. They'll call me patient. That shut her up. She stormed out, muttering curses under her breath. Later that night, I slid another set of documents into the second oak box. It was nearly full. Almost time. Her desperation peaked when she tried to humiliate me publicly. She hosted a dinner at her sister's house, invited friends, neighbors, anyone who'd listen. She thought she'd spin the story, make me out to be the cold, unfeeling husband while she played the wounded wife. Halfway through her speech, voice quivering with fake sadness, I set my fork down and stood. "Since we're sharing," I said evenly, "let me help." I pulled out a small flash drive, held it up, and slipped it into her sister's laptop hooked to the TV. The screen lit up. Photos, emails, texts, dates, times, receipts. Each one scrolling like a slideshow. The room went silent. Forks paused midair. Her sister gasped. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." Vanessa stood frozen, face pale, hands twitching like she wanted to rip the cord out of the wall. But it was too late. Every lie she'd ever told, every betrayal she thought she'd buried, it was all on display, in front of the people whose approval she craved most. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just smiled, nodded politely, and walked out. Behind me, I heard the whispers start, the kind that don't stop once they begin. Her reputation, her friendships, her image, they collapsed in one evening. All it took was one slideshow. The revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It wasn't even angry. It was clean. By the time the divorce finalized, she was left with a fraction of what she expected. No house, no savings, no friends willing to take her side. The contractor vanished. The realtor blocked her. The sister stopped answering calls. And me? I had my house, my accounts, my peace. But I wasn't finished. On the morning of the final settlement, I placed the oak box, now heavy, overflowing, on the lawyer's desk. Dispose of it, I said. He raised an eyebrow. All of it, all of it, I confirmed. Because true revenge isn't in watching her suffer every day. That's easy. That's predictable. The true revenge was knowing she'd spend the rest of her life waiting for the other shoe to drop. Wondering if I'd kept a copy. Wondering if someday, somewhere, someone else would see those files. Every phone buzz, every email notification, every sideways glance in the grocery store would feel like exposure. Like the noose tightening. That was my gift to her. Not ruin, paranoia. Not destruction, doubt. As for me, I closed the door behind her for the last time, poured myself a glass of scotch, and sat in silence. Not sad, not angry, just satisfied, because she thought I was a placeholder. And in the end, I placed her exactly where she belonged. Outside, looking in, forever wondering when the box would open again.